Joe and Ward Parkinson are two friends of mine. But back in the 1970s, they were two young men from Blackfoot, well-educated, technically knowledgeable, with an idea of a memory chip and knowing how to put it together.
Ron Yankee and Nicholson and Noble, and I don't know who else was involved in that at the time, but they had been talking to him about this great discovery, this computer chip, a 4 meg, by the way. And he needed to be involved in it because we were going to build memory for the world right here in Idaho. And he'd always say, this is bigger than a wheel.
They had the right idea, and Jack Simplot was a lot of things, but he was a salesman. And he'd go around with this chip and he'd hold it up and he'd say, ladies and gentlemen, this little Hummer right here keeps all the memory that we used to keep in a great big footlocker.
Yeah, it's a story that I have to say that I'm proud, I guess, that we were able to be a part of this. So to something to start at such a small level.
Yeah.
And go to this height. It's
yeah, it's one of those lucky situations.
Dream.
Yeah. Your real life actually exceeds your imaginary life.
To think that we, as the managers, would meet, I don't know, every Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock with the board of directors would actually come in and we'd go through the production results of the week. So they called it the rolling tree meeting. It was always amazing because I don't know that they ever really understood what we were saying, but they were very passionate about the company, and I think they would just get kind of caught up in the enthusiasm more than they would actually understand the numbers or the details.
So they invited me to come to this meeting one time, right, and present the numbers. And so when I got there, I sat down in a chair, and everyone kind of looked at me like, oh. And I was like, is there assigned seating in this meeting? And they're like, no. And so, as the room started to fill up, J.R. Simplot walked in and he stood right behind me, right? And he's just standing there, and I'm, kind of looking over each shoulder going. And then I look around the room and everyone's just like, so I kind of get up and go, oh, I guess this is your chair, right?
We set him up.
Totally set me up.
I remember getting called into Randall's office, who at the time was vice president, maybe president at the time. He called us in and he said, hey, we've got to get a hold of this diborane gas. And it was a Friday and nobody could ship it. And so I'm a 23, 24-year-old kid and another guy with me. And we get on a plane, we fly down to Erico, and we're going to haul this gas back in a U-Haul truck, which I'm assuming was legal at the time. I'm not really sure. But we jump in this truck after going to Erico, and it was my first ever business trip, and so we probably had a little more fun than we should have, knowing that we're hauling gas back in a U-Haul truck. And we got lost at least 2 or 3 times through the night driving back. And we thought for sure we're going to get back and we're both going to be fired because we were about 6 hours too late. And we get back and Randall and Barney Jerica are on the dock, and they're just clapping as we're pulling in. We thought for sure we lost our jobs because we were late, but.
This kludge, we were actually shipping off of this little circuit board, and I think Scott's probably got the record for number of hours sitting in front of this box. But we were shipping off of it, and then we started making a little bit of money, and we actually bought a Megatest tester. I think we bought 2. So we get these testers in, and the story goes something like Ward had asked him to write a program to test the parts. And so they gave us this program when we started testing, and darn if it didn't work, and they were testing them, and it was a lot faster than this. And we were shipping these out off that new tester, and we started getting customer returns. And these customer returns were coming in, and so then we dug this out of the box and plugged it back in, and we took the return parts, and they failed on this box. we had to dig it out. So I told Ward I'd always save this in case we ever needed it again. So haven't needed it yet.
I loved our facilities guys because Randall and Warden, all those guys wanted the fab to stay up, and we would wire in whole new panels hot. We had a 90% chance that it would all go okay, but sometimes it didn't. The whole fab would go down. We had no redundancy even for air handlers, and the acid baths and stuff would just start steaming up the bays.
In minutes.
Yeah, and we would just run in, get a big breath of air, run in and start trying to drain all the tanks so that all the equipment didn't corrode. It would happen multiple times in a shift sometimes.
I hope nobody from the EPA or anybody's gonna see this.
And all the engineers could never figure out how it should actually be done because we used a micro manipulator. And they was always complaining, he's either scrubbing the pads too hard, and then everybody was arguing, you get Ward behind you, and Randall, and Tyler, and I'm just a little probing guy here. I don't know hardly nothing compared to all these guys, and they're all arguing behind you. Then they'd ask you, well, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know, I just want out of here. It's like, so yeah, it was an amazing time.
Micron, over the years, has built this very sophisticated, high-tech workforce, and frankly, a good number of them over the years find other ways to segue into the local tech economy, and they spread the good work that Micron is doing out there across the valley.
You know, even Mr. Simplot used to say, this is bigger than the wheel. You know, that was a great expression. But I think even at that time, and he'd say, you know, we're going to build memory for the world. But I think even at that time, he couldn't have envisioned the size, the scope, and the dramatic influence that Micron has had not only in Idaho, in the United States, but in the world.
So we not only had the results of all that stuff, we had the energy attached to entrepreneurship, attached to the business challenges and overcoming them, attached to the invention, not only of products, but of a business. You know, how does this work? How do the processes flow? Sales, operations, you know, so much infrastructure is associated with building. And so the fact that it was built here, I think, created a level of energy, commitment, and depth.
And we had a few other companies that were quote unquote high tech. This was the first homegrown. This was organic, organic to Idaho.
Yeah, you could go anywhere in this valley and people would ask you, where do you work? And you say, I work at Micron. Oh yeah, that's good. You know, drive outside of past Mountain Home and nobody knew what you were talking about, right? And then fast forward to, 25 years later, I'm on a dive boat in Thailand and somebody asked me what I do and I say I work at Micron and they say, oh, the second best memory company. And I was like, second best? And they said, yeah, Crucial's better. And so I'm like, okay.
Oh, wow. That's good.
My favorite part is the timeline that shows starting in 1978, 81, a few $1 million of revenue to where we are today in the billions of revenue, and all the companies that existed back then, and now we're down to just a few that are left, and all the different downturns we've been in. And it's like sometimes the numbers would tell us that we can't even survive in this industry. And in fact, we've had guys come into the company and tell us that we're doing it wrong. There's no way we can make money. And we come out of all those downturns because we have that winning attitude, and we don't really care what the numbers are. We're just going to keep fighting, and we win. And that's what I'm very proud of.
I'm also proud of the impact that we've had on the community in the state. It's as my kids have gotten older and gone off to college and different things, we have our fingerprints on things all over the community, all over the state, all over the Northwest in a lot of different ways. I keep running across things that have the Micron emblem on them I didn't even realize that we were involved with, and so that makes you proud. But one of the things I like the most about working with the community we have here at this company is what we can accomplish when we band together and focus on something specifically. It still dumbfounds me where something can look very hopeless and daunting, and if we know it's necessary, we pull together a cross-functional team and go focus on it, and it's amazing what we can get done, and I take a lot of pride in that.
They were all geniuses in their own right, and coming together, they created one great company.